If there's one feature my clients always wish for and always are wondering about in ClickUp, it's capacity planning. It's being able to see your team's workload over the course of the next week, a month. Always warn them about one thing, is that it is time consuming to see your team's capacity for one big reason. You need your whole team to be very accountable in using ClickUp and filling up those fields. Start dates, due dates, assignees, time estimates. Without this, you won't be able to see a beautiful diagram like this one. You've probably already seen it in the ClickUp promotional videos and content, and this is the workload view. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up the workload view, how to do capacity planning in ClickUp, and also the new way to do it, the way I came up with using the batch method and points for estimates. I'll talk about that further down the road, so stay till the end of the video because you're going to save hours and hours planning your team's capacity in ClickUp. Let's start with how ClickUp measures capacity planning. For them to know the workload of each assignee, they need to basically do a simple calculation. They get all your tasks' time estimates over a certain course of time, and then from there, each task has a daily estimate. So they take the start date and due date, and they divide the total time of that task over the course of the start and due date. And they sum all those tasks together. And then based on the assignee, they know the capacity of each assignee, and they can show you that diagram. So if I give you an example, it looks like this. You have task 1 that lasts 20 hours over 5 days, task 2, 15 hours over 3 days. Task 1 has a daily estimate of 4 hours per day. Task 2 has a daily estimate of 5 hours per day. And then the sum of those tasks is 9 hours per day. So what that means is that if someone has an 8-hour capacity and you assign them both those tasks for the course of at least 3 days, they will be overloaded by 1 hour. So that's how you can see that data coming up this way in this diagram in ClickUp. So that's how workload view works. And I wanted to explain you that because it's important to understand that workload view is not a snapshot of reality. It is an estimate. It is an assumption. This is not something to rely on to work day to day. This is something to rely on as a manager, as a business owner, to make some strategic decisions. And why would you want to make those decisions, right? So there's one big reason it matters for agencies to do capacity planning, especially if you're service oriented. The first one is to make sure that you don't have any burnout in your team, that you don't have people that are regularly over capacity. Then it's to make sure that you're meeting your client's deadlines. If you have a lot of tasks for a client and your capacity is reached out, maybe you need to hire, maybe you need to get a freelancer to help you out. You need to optimize your resources and you need to make some business-oriented decisions, and that's how capacity planning in ClickUp can help you. But again, this is an insight of how your team's working together and are they overloaded or not. But you have to go talk to them face to face. There's also human interaction that matters. Now, I know this sounds stupid and obvious, but I'm saying this because you have to be pragmatic with how you work with capacity planning in ClickUp. And I like to use the Pareto principle when I tell my clients, you're going to use capacity planning, but be real. You want to spend a little time to get a rough idea of 80% of your team's capacity and availability. The 20% remaining don't really matter. You don't want to go and pinpoint all these little extra hours spent here or the hours spent there. You don't want to go into the details of this task actually doesn't take 2 hours and a half, it takes 2 hours and 47 minutes. You don't want to dive into the little details and the nitty-gritty of time estimates, because otherwise you're going to enter that rabbit hole of going super accurate. And the reality is not everyone is going to be able to fill up their capacity very exactly in ClickUp. So you want to find a way that gets you 80% accuracy with 20% effort. And that's how my automated method comes in. I'm going to show you the old way to do capacity planning. And by the old way, I mean the one ClickUp promotes, which is using start dates, due dates, and time estimates. and the new way, which is basically automating the start and end date of a task and the time estimate of a task. The first thing we have to do is set up our workload view in ClickUp. I'm going to get to my ClickUp account right here, and we have a space called Delivery 2.0, where we have some lists representing our clients, and those lists have some tasks. They're all the same tasks. They already have start dates and due dates. This is part of the agencies template. So this framework, agencies, will hold templates for all kinds of agencies, SMMA, content, web agencies. You will have the capacity planning view that's ready-made. Then we have a batch view right here. I'll talk about that later. We have the workload view that's ready-made, and that for now doesn't look like anything, but you will see that it'll make sense later. We can see the tasks of next week, this week, and we even have a Gantt view right here where we can see all our tasks over time. If you're just project planning, you can see the project progress. There you go. If we open that up, you can see those tasks have start dates, due dates, dependencies, and they're following certain patterns, certain templates. So those templates are part of agencies, and it basically contains the whole workflow for sales, for recruiting, for client delivery, all in one in some ClickUp template. And I add templates as I go, as I gain experience with working with clients and knowing ClickUp more, and as ClickUp's had some feature. It's going to save you tons of hours in setting up your delivery, your sales spaces in ClickUp, and it's guided, so you will know exactly how to go through each step. You can even create your own templates for following your own type of projects, and there's automations and triggers that will just create the whole roadmap with just a click of a button based on the products that you sell to your clients. If you're interested in agencies, I've done a bunch of videos where I explain the agency framework in ClickUp, and you can also get access to the template. It's down in the description, and it's going to save you tons of hours from setting up your ClickUp workspace. With that said, this is not what we're going to focus on. It doesn't matter where you create your workload view. You could be an agency, you could be any type of business. The workload view will be the same because it relies on all the tasks that are below there. It relies on their start date, due dates, assignees, and estimates, and that's it. Doesn't matter if it's an agency template or not, but for the sake of this example, I want to show you how it works in service delivery business. We have our space ready. I've introduced it to you, and we have some tasks. And as I said, we are required to fill assignees, start dates, due dates, and estimates. So what I'm going to do is go into this view and add those fields. I'm going to add the assignee field, I'm going to add the start date field, and I have the due date field already, and I'm going to add the estimate field. So from there, I can start to do some capacity planning. I'm going to assign my tasks, and I have to go there one by one and assign them to a team member. Now, obviously, you have to do this during a meeting, during a planning meeting maybe, or if you're the project manager and you know exactly who does what, you can do it yourself, but you have to go through each task one by one and assign it. That's something you cannot really automate unless you know exactly who does what when, and that way you can put it in the template of the task and you don't have to do it another time. So if that's constantly one person doing something, you can set it up in a template or an automation and forget it. But if you have to decide each week who does what and adjust the capacity based on your freelancers availability, your designers, your developers, and who's there based on holidays, etc., it's hard to systemize this. So you'll have to go one by one and assign the tasks to the right people. Second thing to do is going to be time estimates. So you're going to have to go to each task and define the time you think it will take. And that also takes a lot of time. So you can do this in the template, and that's how I advise you to do it. That way, if you know that the branding concept on average takes 4 hours, you don't have to do it all the time. You can do it once, save it in a template, and that's it. It will be done. Now, the agencies templates will contain time estimates that are just rough market averages, and you can tweak them. But obviously, you can create your own templates and save them, and then from there, reuse the existing time estimates. Or if you need to adapt it by the client one by one, you have to do what I'm going to do right now, which is add this to each task. It's quite time consuming, especially that now I'm just doing it just randomly. But if you're with your team, etc., you have to think, okay, how long does a concept take? Okay, maybe it takes 5 hours, debate about it and everything. So it can take quite some time to just estimate every single task. And then last point is the start date and due date. So you have to make sure that you have a start date and due date for every single task. Now, I've done it myself and I've added some start date and due dates on some tasks before this video. So obviously it's already pre-built, but if you've already set up start dates and due dates in ClickUp, you know how long it can take. So you have to make sure that you do it one by one. And obviously later, I'm going to show you how to save yourself time and then ClickUp automate that for you. Same way that I did it for this week's view, I will do it for the next week's view so that we can see something interesting in the workload view later. So I'll just do it. If all your tasks have the same assignee, for example, you can also select them all and then go to assignees and select the same person if you wanted to. That's one way to do it. Obviously, it really depends on your case. And then we also have to do our estimates. So it takes some time again, and I'm going to show you how to save yourself a lot of time from doing what I'm doing right now. All right, so all our tasks have start dates, due dates, time estimates, and assignees. And I've done this randomly. So you can imagine if you're doing this very accurately, if you're spending time with your team, this can take you a few hours. That's done. Now let's see exactly how it will look in the workload view. So I'm opening up the workload view and we can see we have something interesting. We already have some assignees that have been added. And we have some tasks and some little colors right here. So I'm going to explain this, but before we go there, I'm going to show you how to customize your workload view. So what you can do is in the time period settings, go to a month period. That way you see a larger scale of tasks. You can hide the unplanned tasks. And then if you're going to customize, you could, for example, go into workload and pick time estimates, which is the unit we're using. Make sure the subtasks are turned on. And in the layout option, make sure that your subtask parent names are turned on. That way, if you have subtasks, you know to which task they belong. So you know that update client design system is part of the onboarding. So once you've created your view, what you have to tweak as well is everyone's capacity. So it might be that some people are there full-time, some other are freelancers, some others are working part-time. So you need to take that into account. And you have two ways to do it. You can either set your weekly capacity or even your daily capacity if you know that someone's not there on Wednesdays, for example. I'll say that this person is available, let's say 20 hours a week. And if the rest of the people are available maybe 40 hours a week, I can tweak that and I can set that for all 4 users. What that will do is that it will apply the capacity to every user at that level, so in the space level. I'll click save and everyone's capacity has been adjusted. And here you see you have 160 hours. That's 40 hours times 4 because we have 4 weeks there. We have something that is starting to make sense. I've explained you how ClickUp calculates capacity, right? It will take a task start and due date and it will even it out over time. If I were to move this task to this person, because this task lasts 4 hours and it's over 5 days, it's going to take 5 days divided by 4. So it's roughly 48 minutes per day. This shows you that this feature is not made for you to be super accurate. It's made for you to get a rough idea of your team's capacity and be able to make business decisions if you see that some people are overboard. That way you can have a conversation, you can hire, you can make some decisions. With that said, I'm gonna tweak start and due dates of some tasks so that the capacity are a little bit more balanced and they look a little bit nicer. I'm moving some of those tasks and then I can just put them over a certain course of days. And you can see as I'm doing this, the daily capacity is evening out better and better. So we have this one, for example, that we can assign to this person. Maybe this one, let's put it on a smaller time frame and move it here. And you can already see that this is quite hefty. It takes some time. You have to move all those tasks, put them more or less the same scale so that it's readable. And maybe on a weekly basis, which is what I'm doing right now, and put a start on the Monday and an end of a Friday, for example. Now I'm starting to have some tasks with some capacity, some estimates, and my little batteries are filling up for everyone because I'm bringing everything to the first 2 weeks. And I'm doing this just to show you how you can balance out capacity across people over a time span later. Let's get there and move this one out. And maybe let's this one here. And as a scale, because we're talking about 2 weeks of work right here, I'm going to change my scale. So you can use the monthly scale, but you could also use a 2-week scale, which is going to be a little bit more visual. We have our tasks right here. They'll have start dates, due dates, estimates. They're more or less evened out, but as you saw, it took me some time. We can balance out everyone's capacity. So this person might be a little bit overboard right here. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your weekly capacity is realistic, because you have to take into account if a person is a manager, if they have some slack time meetings where they're not really into the operations of what is actually in ClickUp. You also have to take into account for their holidays. One way I advise you to do this is to create a list with everyone's holiday in ClickUp with their start and end date, and the person as an assignee and the holidays as a time estimate. So if you do this, you will actually bring that holiday as a virtual task into ClickUp and into their workload view, and you will be able to take into account that into their capacity. That's one way to handle holidays, and that's how I advise my clients to do. Now, I've heard ClickUp might bring a holidays feature and let you set up everyone's holidays and PTO and an availability. So that might change in the future, but for now, that's one way to do it. I've just set up my workload view. What I'm going to do is actually put some more realistic time on some people. So this one might be a manager, so maybe their operational time might be a little bit lower. And this one is actually also in meetings that we don't have in ClickUp, so we're going to put it a lower capacity, and this one as well. And I'm doing this also to show you that we're starting to have some limits here. Some people are over capacity, some people are under capacity. So what we can do is think, okay, so this person, maybe they're doing too many operations, and we can move some of those tasks to this person. And as you can see, Ramzi's capacity has been adjusted over time, April's as well. And if we move this one as well, we have the capacity being adjusted as well. As I'm moving tasks, everyone's capacity is just being balanced out. And this task might be over capacity for this person. So what I'm going to do is bring it to the beginning of the week and just move it on the span of a few days. That way the capacity gets balanced out better. So that's one way to play with it. Maybe this one's overboard on the 22nd of January, and maybe Lucas can do it. So I'm just going to move it. So this person might be in the orange, but again, this doesn't really matter. If they're in the orange zone, it means like it's roughly good. This shows you how capacity planning works in ClickUp manually. And as you've seen, it's quite hefty, it takes some time, but it gives you an idea of whether or not you can tackle a whole 2 weeks of work. Now I'm going to show you how you can almost automate what I've just shown you and takes hours to set up. I am going to use 2 fields, a batch field and a points field. I'm going to show you how it goes. So here we have our weeks, right? And we're going to add 2 custom fields, the batch custom field and the points custom field. These are 2 custom fields that I made, and they're part of the agent's template so that you can set up visually whether a task is to do now, which means this week, next week, later, someday, or maybe, and whether this task is small, medium, or large, if it's 1, 2, or 3 points. And the idea behind this is that there are automations that are going to automatically schedule your tasks and estimate them based on 2 fields. So it's going to be much simpler to set up your estimates and your start and due dates. Let me show you how the automations look. If we go to automations, we have some automations related to batches. And if you want to know more about batches, about how I've set them up, there's a dedicated video on the batch method. So I'm not going to go very deep into that, but it basically means that if a task is to do now, then the start date is trigger date, due date is 7 days after. If a task is to do next, then it's day plus 8 to day plus 14, then later 15 to 45, then 45 to 90, 90 to 365. So what that means is that the further we see in the future, the less clear it is when it's to do. And it means either I have to do this week, next week, this month, this quarter, or this year. As soon as you change that field's value, it's going to replanify your task based on the current day. So that's a very, very powerful time estimate automation. Next one is going to be the points estimate. And for this, I've chose a simple unit. So 1 point is 3 hours, 2 points is 6 hours, and 3 points is 9 hours. And you can always change that. So this is my way to calculate things. The goal is to get a rough idea of whether a task is small, medium, or large. And that's it. Small task, 3 hours, medium, 6 hours, large, 9 hours. And with those automations working behind the scenes, we're going to be able to automatically schedule our start dates, due dates, and estimates. I'm going to go into the same views, the this week view, for example, and I'm going to add my batch custom field, and I'm also going to add my points custom field. I'm going to bring those here, and you're going to see it's pretty cool. Each time I put a task into this week's batch, it's going to automatically calculate the start and due dates, and those are going to update as I'm just setting this field. So as you can see, it's changing the start and due date of each task one by one, and they're filling up right here. Now I'm going to do the same here. They're being rescheduled, start date and due date. So every single start date and due date is being set to today till the 24th. That's what I want, and that's perfect. And then if we go into the next week view, we can also do it for the next week's batch. Now I'm in between 2 weeks, so that's why some of the tasks from the current batch are being reflected into next week. It's not a great example, but let's do it for the ones remaining. I'm adding the next batch, and the start and due date are just being refreshed. Now we've done this. Second thing we're going to do is points. So these tasks have estimates, right? And as you've seen earlier, it took me some time to just be like, okay, this is 3 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours and a half, etc., etc. If I just click this button, it will set the task estimate to 3 hours. I'll just put 1 point of each, and it's just going to update to 3 hours. Now, some of them are on 3 hours already, so they won't update, but let's put 2 hours on this. Let's put 2 points on this, 2 points on this one, 2 points on this one, maybe 3 on this one. And the time estimates are just being refreshed and updated as I'm setting that up. And that's the magic of ClickUp automations. Estimates have been made probably in not even 10% of the time. Now let's go into the next week view and add some estimates to these ones as well. Okay, so obviously this has to be done during a meeting where you're estimating your tasks, right? And based on this, it's going to calculate this. You talk with the designer, your developer, or you let them do it async and set up that points field for you. And now that it's done, all you have to do is go into workload view. And as you can see, this is much, much cleaner because the batch automation has set up every task beginning this week and ending at the end of the week. And then you have the next week's task and the ones after right there. Now I have an extra day on the current week because the now automation also takes into account the actual Saturday, but this is personal. This is part of my setup. But in the template, it will only be over Monday till Friday. What matters is that this view is much, much cleaner, and you can easily reassign a task to someone if you see that someone's over under capacity, or simply push it to the next week if you feel like this person is going overboard. So all you have to do is push this task, this one as well, because this person is a little bit overboard. Let's move this one 6 hours to this person so that it balances things out a little bit. But now this person is a bit overloaded, so let's move it here. So let's move this one over, and we're more or less all in the orange or the green. That's perfect. We have a working capacity planning, and our team is happy, and our workload is balanced out across people. Now, obviously, this implies that everyone has the same knowledge, everyone's capable to do the other's work. It's for you to set up the right filters on the right assignees if you want to do capacity planning only on designers or capacity plannings on developers. So it really depends on your workflow, the way you work, and you can always play with your grouping, with your filters to be able to assign and swap your tasks between people. Now, I hope you got to understand how the batch method and how the points will save you hours and hours of planning and estimating your tasks if you work in the service business. Now, this is all part of the Agencies system, which will let you have task templates for different kinds of agencies. You will also have the automations that I've shown you, the batch and the points custom field, a wiki template, and you'll have the full ready framework to get started on working on ClickUp with your agency. If you want to go any further on capacity planning or setting up ClickUp in general, you can book a discovery call with me if you're ready for consulting, or if it's a much smaller problem, then you can go with a coaching call. The links are down in the description, and I'd love to help you out on setting up your ClickUp workspace properly for you and your team. Now, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Until then, stay productive.